we were thinking about SEL 20 years ago, the vision was that it would be this place where people who weren't normally working together were coming together to really think about and act upon big problems that affected students.
The timing was right to launch SEL because of that tremendous potential. Indiana had some needs, and SEL was poised to address some of those needs. Specifically, the strategy that SEL proposed to use was to engage leaders of education from all levels to really engage in addressing some of the leadership issues that Indiana education, specifically K-12 education, was struggling with.
So I think there was a sense that the world was changing and that we should assume that education would need to change. How could we preserve the best parts of what we had developed through the years, build on those to actually expand that to a greater population? And SEL started looking at ways that we could in fact make the promise of education available to more Hoosiers. And what were the strategies that would make that possible?
Whatever the need was that was recognized by superintendents, principals, or teachers, we had the staff that knew how to reach out to them and provide the resources and allow them to make those developments in their schools. And frankly, once it started happening, it just continued to happen because SEL developed this reputation for allowing that to happen.
SEL is a Big Tent organization. They're bringing all different types of schools together, and that's so important, and particularly now as we are more and more polarized as a country. We need to find ways to learn from each other, to share best practices, to build on what's working and stop what's not working. And SEL's approach has been incredibly important to our community because they're saying, no, we're not about silos, we're about bringing everybody together. We're about saying what works best for kids. What works best for kids can look different. And frankly, the more we talk, the more we're going to find that the differences that we think we have are actually much, much smaller. And SEL provides that forum to have those kind of conversations.
SEL's greatest asset in changing Indiana's educational landscape is its ability to be nonpartisan. And I think SEL, while they have been focused on reform, it has not been the reform to divide up and conquer. It has been the reform to bring people together and to make sure that we're providing great opportunities for staff and students as we look forward and staying out of the fringe of all of the political rhetoric that may be occurring so that we can focus on what's really important.
And so innovation in education is not top-down. It is a process in which you capture the imagination of educators and then you allow that imagination to take root by providing them the resources to do it.
Through the years, SEL's initiatives have benefited educators, be they principals, counselors, teachers, central office administrators, in numerous ways. One, we've been an educator. Through our conference that ran for many years, we brought new practices, new ideas, and new voices to this state to help inspire Indiana educators to realize there are other ways to do things than what we might be doing here in Indiana. There's been so many ways, and those ways continue to multiply as SEL continues to evolve.
When we were first implementing TAP in Indiana, made possible through SEL's support and partnership with the Department of Education at the time, I would visit TAP schools all over our state, and leaders and teachers would say, well, this just makes sense. Why didn't we do this before? This is going to change the way I teach and therefore the way students learn.
SEL's partnership with the Indianapolis Mayor's Office and IPS and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation proved that big, bold, and innovative ideas can really improve schools and that that's possible. And we saw that through the grant that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation had in partnership with SEL through the Small Schools Initiative. And that journey really gave us a lot of valuable lessons that have informed work moving forward in Indianapolis and laid the groundwork for a lot of really tremendous opportunities that have carried the improvement of students' journeys moving forward.
When I think about the work that SEL has done and how it's impacted students, I think that it's all rooted in this idea that because kids have had access to a certain program or a certain opportunity, it has changed their outcome. They are forever a different person with a different set of skills and ability to tackle, whether it's higher education or just a post-secondary training program, that they wouldn't have been able to tackle otherwise.
So in a lot of ways, SEL was ahead of its time in terms of a part of a university that can help connect with the communities around. And so the notion that an institution can sit between a corporation or an industry that's looking to connect with content that's created and people that will become the workforce for their entities to create quality of life and economic regional development and advantage, universities can sit in that place, and SEL produces the model for that.
When I look back at my time with SEL, probably the things that make me most proud, number one, that the startup went successfully, because there was a lot of startup work that is taken for granted now, but when you're starting with ground zero, that was a huge heavy lift, so that makes me proud. But in the much bigger scheme of things, what makes me most proud is looking at where SEL is now and the impact that SEL's having now, and that's so significant. And the fact that the work of SEL over these 20 years has made such a difference in so many students' lives. It's impacted the University of Indianapolis, and it's seen as the place where impact can be made. Not the only place, certainly, but it's made such a difference in so many people's lives.
There are many learnings and aha moments that I've taken with me past my years at SEL into my role now with NIET. For example, I think about how SEL always connected organizations and individuals and the power in making those connections. I think a phrase I use often now in my own work is the smartest person in the room is the room, meaning that all of us working together is better than any of us working individually. And that was something that really was at the core of SEL's work.
One thing can be certain: change is inevitable, and the only thing constant is change. And we all know that. SEL will be there to help us with that change. SEL will be there to make sure that we are still focusing on what's important, and that's the education of our children.
SEL has had this ability to not be one thing, but to be many different things, and at times be more adaptable or more flexible in the things that it does than you might expect. And so I hope that we can continue to do that. I hope that we can be this entity that evolves and changes to meet the needs that are in schools, in the communities, and across Indiana.